Welcome. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and this is Defining Moments of Essencology. Today, our topic will be Mensiological Dimensionality. Let's dive right in. In Essencology, again, the focus is on the trichotomic nature of man. Man is a trichotomy, again, is the creation of God. Essencology does not espouse to the thought process or the belief that man is an evolutionary species, something that took millions of years to evolve. We have an issue with the evolutionary theory because we have to suppose that something that is inorganic can, because of the manipulation of chemicals and the manipulation of different proteins, can eventually become living organic tissue. And the problem with this is that there must be the correct manipulation. And if we are to believe them that inorganic substances can somehow manipulate themselves into the expression or the content of becoming a protein which orders itself and finally becomes a living organism that over the process of time becomes something that's sentient and intelligent, there are a lot of gaps in this mode of thinking. And so when we talk about essencology, we believe essencology is more suited for the study of man because man is a sentient being, and it appears that man in his nature has been ordered or systemically connected and placed together because every aspect of his nature seems to be programmed to work together. And so when we look at this, we have to then begin to look at the mensiological point of view or the mensiological aspect of his nature. Whenever we consider the mens, M-E-N-S, which is simply the Latin term for mind, essencology then looks at the mind as more than just the physiology and all of the neurons and the chemicals and the energy that wires as it fires. And so the mind, to the essencologist, is actually a person that is extended through the body into the brain that now makes known its desires, wills, and its compunction, the way and the methodology in which it will manifest, or he, she will manifest themselves through their physiology. When we talk about mensiological dimensionality, the mens then again deals with the mind. And so when we talk about mensiological dimensionality, we talk about the aspects of the mind, or those various conditions or states or capabilities of the mind to extend itself into the variations of unique thoughts. And so there are three primary dimensions to the mind. Those three primary dimensions of the mind, or the mens, are the foundational dimensions. The aspects of those foundational dimensions can be seen through, number one, the intellect, number two, the emotions or the emotive state, number three, the volitionary state or the will. And so when you take these foundational aspects of the mens, then we begin to see that these three basic foundations are the foundations from which all the rest of the dimensionality can now be attributed to. And so when we talk about intellect being one of the foundations also has aspects that deal with the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. The subconscious is the part of the consciousness that brings awareness to what's really happening in the unconscious. And so the subconscious then is the reflector of the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is the bulk of the mind where most of the information is stored and operates, and the unconscious mind has everything that you as an individual or any person as an individual has discovered, has learned, or experienced. And the unconscious mind is always trying to resolve those issues that the individual truly seeks to achieve, to obtain, or to function in. And so what occurs then, what's going on in the unconscious mind, the subconscious reflects, and the active consciousness, which is the higher ordered conscious, begins to now decide what it will allow to be loosed, what it will allow to be surfaced, and what it will consistently focus on. And so Mensiological Dimensionality then deals with the foundational Mensiological attributes, the intellect, which is the rationale. It deals with the emotive, which are the reflections or the expressions based upon the various experiences. And then we have the volition, which is the center of choice. Choice then occurs as the intellect begins to analyze. It occurs as the emotive state begins to express what the senses, the impulses have brought to it. And so intellect, rationality, consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness. Then when we look at the emotive state, there are emotional consciousness, there are subconscious emotions, and there are unconscious emotions. And then when we look at the volition, there are things that we choose to do consciously, there are subconscious choices that we make and wrestle with, and then there are unconscious choices. And so when we look at this, we see three foundational Mensiological dimensions. Then we see three extending Mensiological dimensions, or dimensions of the mind that extend into, again, levels of consciousness. And so literally then, the state of the Mensiological dimensionality of man's mind, the active state and capability of the mind of the man, the mind of the human species, literally can be said to have 12 unique dimensions. When we look at it again, you have intellect with higher level consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness. That's 4 dimensions. Then when we look at the emotive state, you have a motive state that now has higher level consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness, 4 dimensions. Then when we look at the volitionary state, we see volition extending itself through the conscious state, subconscious, unconscious. And this is why some individuals will classify the Mensiological dimensionality into 12 dimensions, and some will classify it simply into 9. And these 9 dimensions then are simply, first of all, one intellect that has 3 unique extensions or extensive abilities. The intellect can be conscious, the intellect can be subconscious, the intellect can be unconscious. And so for each foundational dimension of the mind or the mens, there are 3 exertions or operations, but the same consciousness. And these are the types of schools that can be blended within Essencology, and these types of schools or these differences in opinion can cause a variation in the essencological consideration of the Mensiological dimensionality. And so basically because I am the founder and I am the developer that has been developing this system for quite a bit of time, since 1980s. And so when we think about it, both of these approaches can be considered to be correct depending on the research and depending on how you want to extrapolate the information concerning dimensionality. And so I pray that you've gotten something out of this. We're out of time now. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and this has been Defining Moments of Essencology. Until next time, God bless.